Good afternoon, y'all. Welcome to the Super Metroid multi-category tournament week for 100% race between LakeDemon and Diddy. This is going to be should be a close race. Both runners have a PB within about 2 minutes of each other. And this is a pretty important race as well, as I believe both runners are 2-1 in the tournament. So the winner will be moving on to 3-1, which is a very good position for themselves. So we will see what happens. The race is started in SRL. We should see it be starting on stream anytime now. Of course, all of the week 4 categories are low percent ice, GT Classic, and 100%. I said at the beginning of week 3, which had any percent and 2 unpopular categories, that it would be a lot of any percent, but I was kind of proven wrong, as we saw a lot of RBO and triple bingo. Although this week, with low percent ice and GT Classic, most people are just opting to run 100%. So we have seen a lot of hundo races so far, and we are seeing another one right here. Like I said, the runners have PBs very close to each other. Diddy has a time of 129.50, while LakeDemon has a time of 131.34. So just under 2 minutes between the two. We expect Diddy to probably have an advantage because of better execution and better knowledge of the category, but it can still go either way. Both runners are pretty evenly matched in terms of execution, I would say, and so this race is definitely going to be interesting to watch. Diddy had very close races week 2 and week 3, and there's a good chance he has another one right here. So don't go anywhere. Chat pointing out there will be at least one low percent ice race. I believe Woody versus Richmond have pre-agreed to do low percent ice, and I don't think we've seen any other low ice races yet, although there are still a lot of week 4 races to go. LakeDemon winning that series battle. We're working on getting the streams synced up, but LakeDemon having about a second faster series escape. So at this point, we've probably all seen plenty of hundo races. Of course, hundo meaning 100%. You need to collect all 100 items on Zebes or Zebus, whichever camp you subscribe to, and then finish the game without forgetting any items. Of course, there is a specific route you are kind of forced to take. There are a few little nuances that some people opt to do, but I believe neither of the runners are going to do them, that being whether or not to pick up the alpha power bombs early so you can pick up the Kraid missile early, as otherwise you would visit Kraid without power bombs and need to revisit it to pick up the power bomb locked missile pack. But I believe both runners just do not do early power bombs, so that won't really be a factor. But either way, the runners are just beating the early parts of the game, just getting their first item, the Morph Ball, Alpha Missiles, and the bombs. There are, of course, more items down here, but they will be picking them up later. There is a set route through the game that they will be following, and no items will be forgotten, presumably. Nice little construction zone strat from LakeDemon using the down back. Diddy going for a slightly slower but easier strat, just staying in Morph Ball and bouncing down. I believe LakeDemon actually has the better times in other categories. He doesn't focus as much on 100% as he does the other two categories, but his any percent and GT Classic times are both slightly faster than Diddy's, so he does have the theoretically better execution, although, like I said before, Diddy has the better 100% knowledge, theoretically. Interestingly, LakeDemon opted into the 100% race. He was the higher seed and chose to defer veto. So Diddy vetoed low percent ice, and LakeDemon responded by vetoing GT Classic. So he did choose to run a category where he is theoretically not favored in, which is fairly interesting. But maybe he's confident in his execution, and maybe he's shown more in 100% than is shown on the spreadsheet. His PB might have been changed since then, but I'm just going off of what's on the spreadsheet. He might have been practicing Hundo recently, so he might be confident in his abilities. Who knows? Suppose while we have a little bit of downtime, we can take a look at the actual leaderboards. Of course, the Bomb Chorizo fight is fairly significant. You can lose some time if you mess it up, which it looks like LakeDemon did. He did not get enough missile drops there, so he will have to wait for another round of drops from the boss, but still the fight goes fairly smoothly. We'll see if Diddy can have a similar fight. He gets the missiles in a much better position, so he's able to get all of them, but unfortunately misses one. So similar BT fights for both. And from here, we have a bit of downtime as the runners just go through to Brinstar, something we have seen from pretty much every race so far, with the exception of a few triple bingo races that opt to go down and pick up the map station here. So while we are doing that, looks like LakeDemon's PB has actually improved a lot since he set the PB that's on the spreadsheet. He actually has a mid 127, a 127.31, so much better than the 131 on the spreadsheet. So that may explain why he is opting to choose the category. He has been improving rapidly with actually an over 4-minute improvement on his PB just a month ago when the tournament started. So he will get to show that off. As he goes to get his early super missiles and all of the items behind the early supers. At the Brinstar reserve tank area, there are a lot of missiles that you need to pick up, obviously, picking up all 100 items in the game. Nice little wall jump there. Unfortunately, he was a little bit too slow to get the D-boost off the waiver from the super missile, so he had to go for a little bit of a backup strat, but everything worked out just fine. I'm apparently losing my voice. I don't know when this happened, but don't worry, I'll be okay. I do want to try to focus a little bit more on the technical aspects of the run, since we have seen a lot of 100% recently. I assume most people can get or kind of have a general idea of how the route works. You see one of the more difficult execution tricks there from LakeDemon that he attempted, the reverse mock ball. If you are tight enough with your mock ball, you can actually make it under the gate, so you can avoid going back into the upper section, which saves a few seconds. We'll see if Diddy can get it. He looks like he jumped too early out of the reserve room, and so he lost his upward momentum by bonking on the door frame, so he also has to go with his upper path. Bit unfortunate, but not too bad in a race. And now LakeDemon is currently winning the race to Big Pink. Of course, he will not be picking up the charge missile. It is about a second faster to pick it up on your second trip through Brinstar. There are a lot of items in Brinstar that you either can't or would rather not pick up at the moment. So the run will include another trip around Brinstar after Fantoon. Fairly standard. Of course, you have to do the bosses in the recommended, or I guess the default order of Kraid, Phantoon, Dragon, Ridley because of a few gates in the runs. We'll talk about those when we get there. For now, all you need to know is the runners will both be going down to Kraid first in order to pick up the Various suit and perform the Upper Norfair cleanup to pick up all of the major items there. I believe both runners are also doing early grapple, so they will be doing Crocomire right after doing their Upper Norfair cleanup instead of on their way down or on their way out of Lower Norfair. It is a more difficult route to do Lake Croc, but it does save time due to the Croc fight being faster, as well as a few other minor things. LakeDemon picking up that Spazer Beam. It's actually a pretty nice luxury item to have. Of course, you don't see it picked up in any percent because it gets replaced by... Or you don't see it picked up in old route any percent because it gets replaced by the plasma beam. It's much more crucial in new route any percent where you do not pick up that beam. But it actually helps with the early parts of a Kraid first route a lot, especially in Kraid's lair. It makes a few strats a lot easier. And since you need to pick up every item anyways, it is a very nice luxury to have. Diddy picking up as well. Interestingly, LakeDemon there, actually, instead of using the usual strat of shooting all 3 super blocks and then jumping across to Kraid's lair, he actually only shot 1 and then did a much more well-known jump from the bottom of the room up to Kraid's lair. I believe it's because his super count was uncomfortably low. I'm not sure when that happened. He must have gotten an unlucky drop from the Cack attack. Although it looks like Diddy's supers are also fairly low, so maybe that's just a byproduct of maybe some suboptimal farming. There are a lot of Cack attacks that you can farm on your way to Kraid. There's the 2 in the new bridge, of course. There's technically more, but there's 2 that you can farm without losing a ton of time. And then there's the 1 at the bottom of Red Tower. Unfortunately, it looks like both runners still only had 3 super missiles when they entered Kraid's lair, so they were forced to use a suboptimal strat there, only shooting 1 of the super blocks. Meanwhile, LakeDemon looked like he had a really nice Kraid quick kill. I wasn't really paying attention, but he got through the fight very quickly. Of course, you can lock Kraid's mouth in place and shoot him with super missiles, which can do enough damage to kill him before he actually enters his second phase of rising out of the floor. We'll see it from Diddy as he uses, I believe, a safer method. He uses the 4 super method. I think LakeDemon did the same thing, but like I said, I'm not sure. There's technically a slightly faster way to do it, using 2 missiles and 3 super missiles, but it is a little bit trickier. A lot of runners just opt to do the 4 super method, and so that is what we see from Diddy. And you see LakeDemon, both the execution and the recent 100% grind that he's been doing, both paying off as he is getting a pretty significant lead in the early game. Already out of Kraid's lair, while Diddy is still working on getting to that Kraid E-tank. Yeah, so this race is a 100% race. There are 100 items in the game, and this is a race to collect all 100 and then finish the game. Right now they have about 15 or so. I don't really know exactly, but they are definitely still early on in the race. This is usually about a 90-minute category. It can be pushed down to closer to 80 minutes by the top runners, but 90 minutes is generally a good time for a 100% run. So this is still very early on. This is still anyone's race, although LakeDemon is showing that he is definitely the favorite with his better PB time and better execution in other categories. That's the other thing about 100%. If you are the better runner by execution, then it is arguably the best race category because of how safe it is and how long it is. So since it's very safe, you aren't really at risk of taking any deaths anywhere. So you can just focus on your execution. And since it's a long category, there's a lot of execution involved. So the better runner will really gain time everywhere in the run. So that is most likely LakeDemon's thought process when he picked 100%. The only challenge now is remembering to pick up all 100 items, as ending the game with less than 100 is not allowed and will result in a forfeit unless the runner chooses to reload a previous save in the game and collect all the items they missed. And I imagine we won't see a safety save at the ship right before the end of the race. Of course, they have the option to save and refill all their ammo at the ship before going to Turian, which will show if they have every item. But I imagine neither runner will be doing that. So if they do skip an item, then resetting and trying to pick up the items they missed could take quite literally an hour, as they would have to replay nearly the entire game, most likely. LakeDemon on his way to the speed booster. Doesn't forget the missile. This is one of the more forgotten items in the game. There's a few missiles that are either in rooms where you already have set muscle memory in, or are just out of the way that runners can often forget. Luckily, LakeDemon gets by what I would consider to be the first one in the run. Well, actually the second one. The first one would be the one that you saw him pick up earlier while going to Bubble Mountain, the Cathedral missile, which is also in a room that you generally just jump over. So it can be a little bit tricky if you're used to other categories to pick up that item. You see Diddy also picking up the Speed Booster missile. I didn't see if he got Cathedral missile, but I assume he did. I believe he was practicing Hundo before the race. Interestingly, LakeDemon, despite choosing Hundo, was actually practicing the gate glitch, which I assumed meant he would have elected to run GT Classic, but regardless, he did run Hundo, and is doing a fairly good job of it so far. Already picking up Wave Beam at about a 40 or so second lead over Diddy at the moment. Okay, I'm getting confirmation that he did get the Cathedral missile. That is good to know. I'm also getting some comments saying that some people usually get to crate with 3 super missiles in 100%. So I made a comment about not having enough missiles to do the faster strat. Not sure if that's... I don't have as much experience with the route as I do with some of the other routes in this tournament, so my apologies for making some silly mistakes like that, but it just seemed to me that you would be able to enter with at least enough to do the trick. Regardless, it isn't too much of a big deal. LakeDemon, meanwhile, heading over to Crocomire, excuse me. Like I said, I assumed both runners would be doing the early Croc route, and it looks like I was right. I believe Diddy has already done the early Croc route in a 100% race in this tournament, as I believe this is the second or third time 100% has been in available category. I believe second, but I might be wrong. Regardless, the reason you go early Croc is because there is an E-Tank behind Crocomire, which allows a more comfortable wreck ship, and the Grapple Beam allows for a much easier way to collect Spring Ball there. Otherwise, you would have to do an ice clip from under the crumble blocks below the Spring Ball entrance, which is much more difficult and not race-friendly. So one thing I want to comment on LakeDemon, what you may have noticed him do is shoot a shot in the acid, and if you were paying close attention, you may have actually heard a door open. What he did there is called a wraparound shot. So how that works is, because of how out of bounds works in this game, there are identical copies of each room to the right and one tile up, I believe, of each room. So what he did was actually shoot the door on the leftmost side of this room open by shooting open the copy from out of bounds. You see there the door is open despite him never actually shooting it open. And we call that a wraparound shot. There is one other place that's used in 100%. Unfortunately, he missed the spark twice, once sparking too low and the other time sparking too high, so him getting said wraparound shot didn't really save him any time, but it is still a fairly fancy strat. A lot of runners do it, even though it's a little bit technical how it actually works. Not everyone understands that. But now you do. We've been enlightened together. I didn't see if Diddy got the wraparound shot, but he does get the spark across to the Crocomire powerbomb, so he saves a bit of time over Demon, who missed the spark twice and then just had to jump up from the bottom of the room. Gets a very nice mock ball over to Grapple Beam, though. That is a fairly tough trick that LakeDemon manages to get. I didn't see if he picked up the Indiana Jones missiles. It looks like he didn't. He's going to use grapple strats in order to swing over to the missile. That's actually fairly difficult since you are going at very high speeds at the top of the room, and you have to grapple onto the enemies with such high speed. You're going to see Diddy pick up the missile before getting Grapple Beam, which is fairly standard for newer runners, but it is a little bit faster to do it afterwards like LakeDemon did. And now he picks up the last item in the Crocomire area, the cosine missiles, named after the cosine room, which is, of course, named for its shape, in the shape of a sine wave. I don't know why it's cosine instead of sine, but, you know, that's all right. LakeDemon getting the spark back up to the top of the shaft. Normally, you would have to go through the area after getting Grapple Beam, but we instead opt to skip that area and just spark back up the shaft or wall jump, depending on which route and which strategy you're using. It is much faster than going through the long grapple tutorial area, so we just don't bother. And now LakeDemon is done with his first Norfair visit, just going to be picking up the Croc Escape Supers, or Croc Escape Missiles, excuse me. And then he will be headed up to the wrecked ship to fight Phantoon. Oh, that's right. Sine waves start at 0, while cosine waves start at 1. And since the wave started at its peak, it looked like, in the room, that's why it's a cosine and not a sine. So there, the more you know. I was never good at trigonometry, though. So, don't ask me for more information on that. Looks like LakeDemon is going to go for the Alpha Spark here. It's named the Alpha Spark, of course, because it used to be the first Shine Spark you did in a any percent run. Of course, now most any percent runs that use this route don't go for the Alpha Spark because they don't pick up the Kraid tank, they pick up the Botwoon tank, so you have much less energy, and doing the Spark is not comfortable. But in 100% where you have the Kraid tank and sometimes the Croc tank, it's much more valuable. Although I believe it is technically slower if you have perfect movement, because the crash animation actually takes a lot longer than you would expect. A Shine Spark crash animation is about 2 seconds, so it's actually slightly faster if you have perfect movement not to do the Spark, I believe. I might be wrong about that, though. Either way, for most people it is faster to do the Spark, and since they have the health in 100%, it is worth it every time. LakeDemon picking up those Alpha Power Bombs. Unfortunately, he got caught in the Vileplume there right before the Power Bomb, but luckily he still was able to break all of the Power Bomb blocks from inside the Vileplume with his Power Bombs he got from Crocomire. Of course, there is one more item to pick up here, the Beta Power Bombs. I'm seeing some more comments by people who know more about sine waves than I do about what the room should really be called. It is true, it does go down first. So that would mean it is negative. I guess I would assume that means it's negative. I don't know. Like I said, don't ask me for trig. I did not do well on that in high school. Anyways, LakeDemon on his way to the wrecked ship. In other routes, you usually see runners do a shine spark across this area. It looks like LakeDemon is just going to use grapple strats. The reason you see a shine spark from some of the top Hundo runners is because they do a trick called Ocean Fly, where they spark over the moat and the ocean at the same time. Looks like LakeDemon's just going to grapple over the moat and do a spark over the ocean. Actually, I'm surprised that spark made it all the way. It looked like it was going to be too high, and you saw a little bit of a weird interaction as it looked like his sprite almost got pushed down. I think he might have been intending to do a halfway spark across the ocean, as some runners opt to do to save health. I'm not sure why he would have been saving health, though, as he has plenty, but regardless. Here's another missile that we see a lot of runners forget often. The, I guess just wreck ship missile. There's a couple others in wreck ship, but I think they both have names. I don't know what the name of that one is. Left side missile, maybe? Regardless, that can be costly to skip. Obviously, if you skip it entirely, your run is invalid. But if you skip it before Fantoon and have to pick it up after, the room will be active. So all of the spikes and spike platforms will be moving, as well as the conveyors which will push you away. The room is very difficult to do when it is active, so picking it up now instead of after Fantoon is crucial. And it looks like both runners are going to do it, as Diddy also remembers to pick it up. Looks like LakeDemon turned off the Spazer Beam, so he's going to be doing X-Factor strats on Fantoon. Of course, there are two different ways you can fight Fantoon, using X-Factors or using Dopplers. And unfortunately, it looks like LakeDemon only hit one of the X-Factor particles on Fantoon after a slow pattern. So you're actually locked out of shooting while the X-Factor particles are flying around. So he needs those to hit these flames here before he can do another attack. And it looks like he's going to line up for a second X-Factor here. And that was not great. I'm not sure totally how much damage Fantoon has taken. Looks like LakeDemon is just going to use missiles for the rest of it, though. I think he needs like 5 missiles and a super missile. He did 3 charge wave shots, which are 150, and 2 X-Factor particles connected, which are 300 each. So 1050 plus the 5 or 6 missiles he hit there. So Fantoon's almost dead for LakeDemon. It looks like Diddy's just going for Doppler strats right off the gate. He did not turn off the Spazer Beam, which I would personally say is better in 100%, since you will actually need to turn the Spazer Beam on for a strat the runners will be doing shortly. And Diddy, unfortunately, actually supers Fantoon early, so if you super Fantoon before he's dead, you will enter this enrage cycle, which costs about 13 seconds. Luckily, Diddy has the charge beam, so he can just avoid taking damage, but it is a time loss nonetheless. Still, if he gets a good pattern after Fantoon finishes the enrage cycle, he actually caught up a bit on LakeDemon, who had a fairly poor Fantoon fight. Luckily, both runners had plenty of health, so they are both in fine condition, and LakeDemon is keeping his lead, as Diddy unfortunately got a slow pattern after the enrage, so both runners having equally mediocre Fantoon fights, but they are both finished and on to the rest of Wreck Ship. Diddy's health is a lot lower than LakeDemon's, which is important in a upcoming segment here. We will see what happens as LakeDemon picks up the right side supers. It is a bit faster to pick up the supers on the right before the supers on the left. because it is easier to enter the left supers from the right super exit, or right super entrance, I should say. I suppose the entrance and the exit are both the same. And so this is why Diddy's health being low matters here. You're going to see LakeDemon go through a room we like to call the Spiky Room of Death. And, well, you can see why it is called the Spiky Room of Death. There are a lot of spikes and spike platforms. LakeDemon actually does a very good job getting through it safely without taking any damage. And that will be even more important for Diddy, who has 73 health. The spikes will do 30 HP, but the spike platforms will actually do 100. And it will proc Diddy's reserves at his current health. And if his reserves are higher than about 60, then his iframes will run out while the reserve tank is refilling his health, which means he will instantly take another 100 damage and die if he is not careful in this room. Luckily, there is a refill at the end. You see LakeDemon picking up that wreck ship E-tank. Unfortunately, falls into the water. All right, so Diddy has to be very careful here. He's going to take this room slowly, I assume. Safely platforming on those spike platforms. And again, doing the room without taking any damage. Very nice by Diddy. And of course, the refill awaits him at the end. So he is not in too much danger. Of course, in the late croc route, you don't have grapple beam in order to swing over to the E-tank. So you either have to do a very tricky jump, or you have to do what the world record runs do, a bomb jump over to the E-tank, which is fairly difficult. It's not something that you would want to go for if you don't have to. So both runners are just going to be grappling across to pick up the E-tank. No surprises there. And now, LakeDemon looked like his attic was pretty clean. He needs to go over and pick up the attic missiles to the right of the attic. This is yet another one of the missiles that are often forgotten in 100% routes, as it can be very easy to just exit the attic out of habit after clearing out all of the enemies, as that is what you do in every other route except for map completion, which is not a very popular category. Looks like Diddy was set up for a speed keep attic. Unfortunately, gets hit by the enemy, so didn't quite get it. Still a fairly clean attic for Diddy. As we see a bit of a high five there as LakeDemon is exiting the attic while Diddy is on the left side finishing off all of the enemies. We see a nice little spark here from LakeDemon to pick up the sky missiles up here. There's one more missile pack he needs before going to pick up his gravity suit right over here. Unfortunately, misses the super block, but he's got plenty of super missiles, so it's all right. He will be picking up a lot more super packs before fighting Botwoon, so wasting super missiles here is not a big deal, but you obviously don't want to do it more than you have to because it wastes time. We'll see what LakeDemon does to get across the bowling room. Looks like he went for the Shine Spark, but unfortunately his taps weren't good enough, so he backed off of it and did the traditional 2 jumps over the moat. Unfortunately, Diddy actually sparks a little bit too far to the left to get those sky missiles, so he's going to have to do another spark. And you actually don't want to lose too much HP in this area because you need your HP coming up right after Wreck Ship. It's possible we see Diddy take a ship refill, so that will cost a little bit of time. Well, we'll see if LakeDemon decides to do a ship refill, but his health is actually looking very good, so he won't need to worry about it. And so coming up is the reason why you see Kraid before Fantoon in this category. Of course, if you follow any percent, you know that doing Fantoon first is faster. Of course, the new route does Fantoon first, but so does the hybrid route, which is a bit faster than old route, but a bit slower than new route. It's the fastest in-game time route, but it actually does fan tune first and then does all the old route stuff, where it does the Upper Norfair cleanup, goes to kill Kraid, and then does Dragon and picks up the plasma beam and space jump, unlike new routes. But you see there, you need the speed booster in order to pick up the wrecked ship reserve tank, so you can't go straight from Brinstar to wrecked ship in order to pick up all of the items. So we are basically forced to do Kraid before Fantoon. And so LakeDemon is done with his wrecked ship item cleanup. He just needs to pick up this missile under the ocean. Yet another one of the more forgotten missiles. There's a list of about 10 or so that are fairly easy to forget. And luckily, I don't think either runner has forgotten any of them. You see Diddy sparking up to the wrecked ship reserve, like we saw LakeDemon do. That is why we do Kraid first, because we need the speed booster. The movement is also a lot harder with no movement items in wrecked ship, so it's possible it would save time anyways, even if you didn't need the speed booster, just because having high jump and speed is so nice. See LakeDemon getting the Criteria Power Bomb. This is where you need higher HP. What he's going to be doing is doing another wraparound shot in order to open the door to Gauntlet. And then he will be sparking all the way from landing site to the door to the second room of Gauntlet, which takes about 200 or so energy. Luckily, LakeDemon has enough. And so that is why you see him turn Spazer back on, because this trick is very difficult to do with just Charge Wave. With Spazer, it's a little bit easier. And it sounds like he got the door there. Oh, maybe not. There it is. And so now you will see him... I lost my capture. I'm sad. But you see him do a spark from the little mountain on top, or to the right of the ship, all the way to the door to the second room of Gauntlet. It uses a lot of energy, but it is a very fast way to get through the first half of Gauntlet. There is a much more difficult strat to spark through the second half, but it doesn't look like we'll be seeing it. We're just going to see LakeDemon powerbomb his way through the room. He will be picking up plenty of power bombs, so it doesn't really matter that he is using a lot here. Similarly to super missiles. And yeah, you saw Diddy do a ship refill before he sparked up to the Criteria Power Bomb. This is because his health was just too low to make it all the way to the second room of Gauntlet, even with the reserve refilling a bit of his HP. So now he doesn't need to worry about HP. That's basically the last time you ever have to worry about health for pretty much the entire run. Maybe with the exception of Mother Brain. Looks like Diddy got the Gauntlet shot first try, which is actually a nice time save over LakeDemon, who got it about fourth try, and also had the menu to turn Spazer back on. So Diddy catches up a little bit, but LakeDemon is still in a comfortable lead at the moment. As he begins his Brinstar cleanup after picking up that Gauntlet E-Tank and the Gauntlet missiles. Of course, accidentally going through just one side of the crumble blocks means that you won't be able to pick up one of the missiles, which actually loses you about 90 seconds. The best time to pick up the other missile is after the end of the game, or after picking up the rest of the items, going back and looping around to pick up the other one. Luckily, both runners are going to be picking up both missiles now, so we won't need to worry about that. As LakeDemon makes his way down to the Etacoons, there's 3 items here: a power bomb, an E-Tank, and a super missile. You just picked up the super missile and the tank. The power bomb is a little bit out of the way, but it's a pretty notable area in the game, so hard to forget. As LakeDemon is doing one of the more fun strats in the game. You can actually damage boost all the way to the lip of the door. And it is a bit tricky, but it's really satisfying to get. Unfortunately, LakeDemon did not. He struggled a little bit, but still, he has made his way to the Edakun Powerbomb. You also see what some of the rando community calls the 101st item fanfare, with the Edakuns doing the little, singing the little jingle before they wall jump up the room. So that brings the total item fanfares up to 101, theoretically. LakeDemon doing a really nice strat there, using the powerbomb to open both the powerbomb door on the right and the powerbomb blocks on the left, and then still having enough time to spark up to this missile here in Big Pink. So that's a bit of a tight strat, but it's really fun to see. We'll see if he goes for Mission Impossible. Unfortunately, he did not K-go through the crumble block, so he will not be able to do that. You may have seen K-goes a few times, but just in case, I'll explain it. If you are doing an animation such as turning around or morphing, you will not get slowed down by the crumble block, so you are able to fall through it much faster. It was named after the enemies, the K-goes, as the old any percent strat was to K-go through the K-goes in the room before the elevator to Green Brinstar. Nowadays, it's mostly used on a few crumble platforms. You'll see high-level 100% runs K-go all the way down Gauntlet, but that is much more difficult, and if you mess up, there's a high chance that you are no longer able to pick up both missiles, so most runners opt not to do it, or at least not opting to do it all the way. So LakeDemon going into the room that he opened earlier with the power bomb. So gets to pick up this E-Tank. Looks like Diddy did not get Mission Impossible either. We saw LakeDemon do it earlier, but I'll point it out now for Diddy. What they did was pick up the Spore Spawn Supers from the exit. And so by lining yourself up in a specific way, looks like Diddy's not quite at the lineup, there he goes, you are able to hit the off-screen Super Missile block and actually just enter Spore Spawn from the exit and pick up the Super Missile without ever actually fighting Spore Spawn. So how this works is, I believe Super Missiles move either 2 or 3 pixels per frame. Might not be exactly accurate on those numbers, but the point is that every other frame they move an extra 1 pixel, and the shot is tangible for 1 frame after going off screen. So if it goes off screen and goes the higher amount or the higher distance on the same frame, then it will be able to hit the super block and you will be able to enter from the other side. Obviously, super missile speed is not constant. It depends on your speed. If you are moving faster, the super missile will actually travel faster, which is useful for other tricks not used in this run. But the point is, they are able to shoot the block off screen and pick up the super missile without ever needing to go fight Spore Spawn. See if LakeDemon can get this strat. Unfortunately not. What he went for was a strat called the Blockbuster, where you shoot the door open and mockball through that door with speed echoes, which allows you to break those bomb blocks, which means you don't need to waste time bombing them. Saves a little bit of time, but it is very difficult. Not too sad. I imagine LakeDemon's not too sad about not getting it. As he is finished with his Brinstar cleanup. I haven't seen him miss an item so far, so I assume he's all good. As he enters Meridia, looks like he's going to be doing a safer Shine Spark up to the Main Street missiles. You are able to do a super tight short charge at the bottom of the room, but most runners just opt to do an easier short charge from that little ledge that you saw LakeDemon climb up to. It's a lot easier and technically saves a little bit of HP, but that doesn't really matter at this point in the game. As he goes over to pick up the Mama Turtle E-Tank. There is a missile in this room. It's a little bit harder to forget than some of the other more obscure missiles, but it is still something you need to go out of your way for nonetheless. Of course, this room generally is only used by people in 100% picking up both items, although in rando, you'll sometimes see runners just pick up the E-Tank item and not pick up the missile item, depending on what kind of item randomization it is. LakeDemon picks up the Crab Supers. We're just going to be seeing a little bit of ammo collection before the runners continue on to Meridia. So we saw Mama Turtle, Main Street, and the Crab Supers. There are a few more. We're going to be seeing LakeDemon go up here, up to these items, the Beach Missiles and the Oasis Missile and Super Missile. The Beach Missiles are down here. This is another missile that is commonly forgotten, as it is you have to go through an intangible wall. Game takes advantage of being a third-person game, as if it wasn't first-person, it would be very obvious where you need to go. Not sure what happened to Diddy. It looks like he didn't get the spark up to the E-Tank, so he actually decided to aggro Mama Turtle and use the height from her in order to propel up to the E-Tank using the grapple beam. And so he needs to be careful once he goes back to the bottom of this room, as the Mama Turtle is now rapidly slamming into both walls, and he needs to avoid taking a hit. It will do a lot of damage even with the gravity suit, and it can also pick him up in a little bit of a glitchy manner. Luckily he avoids it, so he doesn't need to worry about that. But that room is much more dangerous in rando, since the runners often have much lower health totals and sometimes even do the room without having a suit. But in hundo, it's not too bad, even if things go wrong. And so LakeDemon is on his way to fight Botwoon. Looks like he did turn Spazer back off. I'm not sure exactly where, but now he can use more X-Factor strats on Botwoon. I think he shot too late. Oh no, he still hit all 4 X-Factor particles, and each one will do 300, each super will do 300, and Botwoon has 3,000 health, so 6 super missiles and all 4 X-Factor particles will finish off the fight. It is possible to do that in one Botwoon cycle. Unfortunately, LakeDemon got a little bit trolled by the pattern and the hitbox of Botwoon, which is infamously bad. And so he had to do a second cycle, but not too bad. He's going for the full halfie. We'll see if he gets it. Yeah, his down grab was pretty bad. One of the things that many people will tell you when you are learning the full halfie is getting the down grab at the top of the ledge is the most important part of the trick. And LakeDemon's down grab was a little bit bad, so he was not able to get the trick. Unfortunate, but he is able to get through the room fairly quickly without sparking, as he picks up the precious missiles, of course named after ED, who I believe misspelled the word previous, so now this room is the precious room, and those missiles are the precious missiles. Speaking of missiles, Diddy is going to remember to pick up the beach missile. He almost forgot or he didn't pick it up on his way into the room, so he's just going to have to pick it up on his way out. It is a little bit faster to pick it up on the way in because of the fish you saw LakeDemon, or the deboost you saw LakeDemon do off of the fish. So Diddy loses theoretically a little bit of time there, but it's not huge. If LakeDemon going for an X Factor Spark opening on Dragon. Looks like a decent opening. So this boss is able to be killed using Shine Sparks. Unfortunately, LakeDemon is not quite finished with two Shine Sparks and a little bit of ammo. So we'll have to do a third Shine Spark here. Needs to be a bit careful not to take too much chain damage. Looks like he's actually not going to risk it and just finish the fight off with ammo. And he is done with Dragon fairly quickly. Looks like Diddy's not even going for X Factors on Batoon. He's just using 10 super missiles. And the fight is over about as fast as LakeDemon's actually. So, well done by Diddy. As LakeDemon picks up the space jump. The space jump is the other reason that this route does the vanilla boss order, and I'll explain that in a little bit. For now, all you need to know is the space jump is a good item, and people who tell you otherwise are wrong. You see Diddy getting the halfie. I'm not sure if he was going for the full halfie, but either way, does save a little bit of time, about a second over LakeDemon, who just had to jump across the room. As we see, I'm not sure if we got an actual high five, but both runners in the same room, one entering and one exiting Coliseum. LakeDemon going to be picking up the Batoon E-Tank now. You have a few opportunities to pick this up. Runners either opt to pick it up on the first or the second trip, or rather the second or the third trip through this room. The first would be right after killing Batoon, and most runners opt to not pick up the E-Tank yet. It's a nice refill after doing your Meridia cleanup. And so a lot of runners opt to do it last. Looks like LakeDemon is going to do it second to last. AKA second, since there are 3 trips. He's also not going to pick up the Aqueduct items yet. There's another thing that runners save for either the second or the third trip. It is a little bit slower to do it on the first trip while you're heading to Batoon, so most people don't do it, although there are a few strats for that, if you opt to do so. And if you opt not to, the strat to get to the Aqueduct items is actually pretty tricky. You either have to do a tight short charge or a very difficult speed keep. Ooh, Diddy sparking a little bit too high there for Dragon. I believe it went over her head completely. But finishes off the fight with missiles. And he's going to be picking up his space jump. Meanwhile, you see LakeDemon heading right here. He's going to be picking up the spring ball. So we're going to get a little bit of a cutscene, if you will, here, as he has to wait for Shacktool to dig through the sand in order to get to spring ball. Shacktool is a bit of a polarizing figure in the community, but really he is just a worker robot, so your opinions on him don't really matter. It is just a robot, and so he has no feelings and is just a dig. He will just dig. Anyways, this gives us a little bit more time to focus on the action on Diddy's side of the screen. Looks like he is not going to pick up the E-Tank yet. He's going to be picking that up on his last visit through the Batoon room. Or rather, the Batoon E-Tank room. As LakeDemon picks up, or finishes the Shacktool cutscene and is just about to pick up the Spring Ball. Spring Ball is a very nice luxury item. There's a lot of cool tech you can do with it. We'll see if we see it. As Diddy does the tight short charge I was talking about to go up to Aqueduct on the second go around. This is the route I personally agree with, picking up the Aqueduct items on the second go around and then picking up the Batoon E-Tank on the third. But it's really just up to runners' preference. And some runners opt to do the more difficult blue suit strat in order to get the Aqueduct items, so often they will pick it up pick up the items on either the second or the third try, depending on if they get the blue suit strat on the second try. So here you're going to be seeing LakeDemon go up the aqueduct tube, going up to get the plasma beam. Yeah, chat pointing out our sponsor, Balls Guarana, or rather Spring Balls Guarana. It was a much funnier joke when he said it than when I said it, but who's counting? Of course, for all your energy drink needs, there is several unique flavors for you to choose from if you choose Balls Guarana. They, of course, also help sponsor the tournament, as there will be a prize pool for the top 8 finishers. So, big thanks to them and MegaCat Studios for providing the prize pool for the tournament. Anyways, we see Diddy in that Shack Tool cutscene as LakeDemon finishes picking up the plasma beam. You're going to see him go through the Kakatak alley that you may notice people go through an old route backwards in order to go back to the Batoon room, in order to go back to Aqueduct to go down the other sand pit at the bottom of the room. There's a right sand pit and a left sand pit at the bottom, and both will lead to 2 items. You cannot afford to skip any of them, obviously, because it is 100%. So you will need to take 2 trips into Aqueduct after the first trip, which you need to get to Batoon. So in total, you will have to go to Aqueduct 3 times. LakeDemon is on his 3rd. Hopefully he doesn't forget the Aqueduct items, as he did not pick them up the first or the second time. We'll see what strat he uses. Looks like he's just going to do a tight short charge, where we saw Diddy do a short charge right here. Unfortunately, his first tap looked like it was bad. There he goes. And now he can pick up these items. It is a little bit tricky to get to the left sand pit. It is easy to accidentally go down the right sand pit again. So hopefully LakeDemon doesn't do that, because that will cost him another full loop around Meridia and will give Diddy a pretty good chance to catch up. Hopefully we do not see it, though. What some runners opt to do is do a short charge and use speed echoes to go over the sand of the right sand pit, since while you have speed echoes, you will not sink in the sand. LakeDemon just opted to jump over it and does it successfully, so doesn't need to worry about that. So he picks up his reserve tank and another missile pack. And Diddy, a little bit behind, picks up his plasma beam. I'll have to see exactly what time each runner goes down the Norfair elevator, as I believe LakeDemon has about a 1.5 minute lead, which he's been holding for a lot of the run, actually. Diddy has not been losing too much time recently. So good on Diddy, but this is definitely... The ball is currently in LakeDemon's court, being the runner with the better execution. This is generally where higher execution runners will pull ahead in Lower Norfair, as there's a lot of not difficult tricks per se, but tricks that save a lot of time to get and involve a lot of inputs. Because the runners have every movement item available to them, high jump, speed, spring ball, and space jump, there are a lot of movement options. And so with a lot of movement options comes a lot of different strats that require use of all the movement options. And meanwhile, you see LakeDemon picking up the Kraid missile I talked about. He didn't have a power bomb when he first entered the room, so he had to go back to the area and get the missile with a power bomb later, it is still slightly faster for most runners to not pick up the early power bombs. I believe picking up early power bombs is theoretically like a few frames faster overall, but that requires perfect execution in a lot of spots. And as we all know, nobody can have literally perfect execution. Okay, Diddy. I was worried there for a second, but he did go down the left sand pit. So he's going to be finishing up his Meridia cleanup. LakeDemon picks up the Ice Beam at about 59.18. We'll see when Diddy picks his up, but like I said, he's about 90 seconds to 2 minutes behind. As he heads over to the Crocomire, or the southern route usually used to Crocomire in casual playthroughs at least. Going to be sparking over to that missile to make sure he doesn't miss it. Of course, he is going to be going right past Crocomire since he has already finished off the fight. And even Late Croc takes a different route down to Crocomire, so in either case, the runner would just be running past the Crocomire door here. Of course, you may know in any percent that there are two options. You can either go that route down to Lower Norfair, or you can take the upper route through Bubble Mountain. Of course, you have to do the lower route in this category because of the missile you need to pick up. But in categories where you don't need to pick up every item, there are a couple options, and they are both about equal in speed. So Diddy's actually more behind than I thought. I believe I said LakeDemon picked up the Ice Beam at 59.18. We're looking at close to a 102 flat for Diddy, so about a 2.5-3 minute gap actually. So yeah, LakeDemon is in a comfortable position here. And there are a few places where you can lose a lot of time in Lower Norfair, but hopefully we don't see any for the runner's sake. We want to see clean runs from both runners as much as we can. And so here is the second reason why we see vanilla boss order in 100%. This statue to lower the acid only works if you have space jump. The statues only work if you have a set item. For the wreck ship statue, it is actually Morph Ball, and for this statue, it is Space Jump. And of course, the little block in order to go down to this area is still there if the acid is not drained. So you need Space Jump in order to pick up this item here, the GT Missile, as the blocks there, the little lowered area, are crumble blocks that you cannot get to from below. So, because you need Space Jump before going to Lower Norfair, you have to do Dragon before Ridley, and as stated before, you basically have to do Kraid before Fantoon, and doing Meridia without the gravity suit would be very slow, so you have to do Fantoon before Dragon, and so the result is a run where you basically have to do all the bosses in vanilla order. I didn't actually see exactly what Diddy's ice time, by the way. So, all the comparison I was working hard for, I just forgot to look at Diddy's screen, and now it is all ruined. But we know that LakeDemon has about a 2.5-3 minute lead, and like I said, this is where runners with theoretically better execution usually shine, so we do not expect LakeDemon to be giving up this lead anytime soon. I was close with my 102 flat. I figured as much. Turns out I've played this game once or twice myself. So here's a spot where LakeDemon could theoretically lose a little bit of time. There is a missile here called the Mickey Mouse missile because of the shape of the little alcove it is in. Those blocks that you just saw him break are all bomb blocks. The blocks below are mostly crumble blocks, and if you fall through the crumble blocks, you'll have to go all the way around back up to worst room in the game, the room that LakeDemon just went back to right now. You'd have to go back through the pillars room and up worst room in the game again, which actually loses, I believe, I am pretty sure this number is inaccurate, but I've heard 1.5 minutes. I think it's less than that, though. Regardless, it is a significant time loss if you manage to, or if you don't manage to get back up the room before you fall through the crumble blocks. So luckily, we didn't see it from LakeDemon. He is able to get through the room safely. If you miss the GT missiles, I believe that's the 1.5 minute. I think it's closer to 50 seconds for falling through the crumble blocks after Mickey Mouse missiles. But that is another place where you can lose a lot of time in 100% if you accidentally fall through the crumble blocks before picking up the missile. What you saw Diddy do there was actually use the spring ball, which will automatically jump on the first frame possible, so it will always jump once it hits the crumble blocks. You are in no danger of falling through, and so Diddy is able to spring ball jump safely over the crumble blocks in order to get the missile. It's like 1:02:10, so yeah, closer to 3 minutes exactly for LakeDemon. He does a bit of a safe pirate strat. There are 3 different strats you can use there. There's one where you can group the pirates and kill them in 2 shots. The one you saw from LakeDemon, where you do not group the pirates and kill them each in 1 shot, which it loses about 3 seconds. And then a slower strat where you kill both the pirates normally, which loses about 3 seconds on that. So LakeDemon going for the intermediate strat. Going to be saving 3 seconds over the slow strat, but losing 3 over the faster one. And now he is on to his Ridley fight. Ridley is very easy in this category with all the energy you have, plus the plasma beam, which will kill him in 20 shots. You can also opt to finish the fight off with supers, which will do 600 damage to Ridley, which is double the normal amount. You can shoot 3 per second, so that is 1,800 damage per second theoretically, while you can shoot 1 charge shot for 900 damage per second optimally. Obviously, it's hard to do damage to Ridley completely optimally because of his random pattern and relatively big arena. But either way, LakeDemon just going to finish the fight off with just charge shots. Going to use the 20 fully decked out shots to finish off Ridley and pick up his Ridley E-Tank. And so he is on his way out of Lower Norfair. There's a lot of items he needs to pick up, including one that is fairly difficult to get to in the prison power bombs, and another missile that's easy to forget in the 3 Musketeers room. So hopefully he picks up all of the items here. As we see Diddy going to Ridley, we're going to see a bit of a high five here in Wasteland. As the runners high five about here. Or rather, Diddy jumps over LakeDemon, if you want to be technical. And I don't know if the runners are watching the restream, but I imagine LakeDemon knows, if he is, LakeDemon knows he is comfortably ahead, so we might see him do some safer strats. We'll see in Turian generally where runners decide to do some safe strats, including taking a few saves. Not something you would do if you were grinding for a personal best, but in a race where you're comfortably ahead of your opponent, saving before Mother Brain in case the worst happens is definitely a good idea. You see there, Diddy actually went for sparks on the Metal Pirates, like you would do in New Route, but unfortunately missed the second spark, so just had to finish the fight, or finish the second pirate off with charge shots. It is a little bit slower to kill the pirates with sparks than it would be to kill them with the plasma beam, but It is more comfortable for some runners, especially runners who have more experience in new route. Although generally a lot of the runners I see use that strat on the pirates are not new route runners, so I don't know. Regardless, I'm not here to put my opinions in. I'm here to commentate a race. And Diddy is currently not favored in this race, but he is doing a good job finishing off Ridley, as he actually gets Ridley to do his death animation without picking him up. There's a few different ways to do that, including, I believe, just being at the same level at him in Morph Ball. Not sure if that's correct. I'm not a huge fan of the Ridley fight in general, and I don't know a lot of the technicalities, but regardless, Diddy gets a nice death animation from Ridley. LakeDemon picking up those easily forgettable missiles I talked about, the 3 Musketeers missiles, so I don't think he's missed anything yet. I haven't been able to watch super closely since I am watching 2 races at once, but both runners look like they are en route to 100%. And now we're going to see LakeDemon pick up the last few items from Upper Norfair, including the Norfair Reserve. Astute runners or astute players may have noticed they didn't go here the first time. It is slightly faster to go here after you've picked up all the items, since the Lower Norfair escape will send you right to Bubble Mountain with all of your movement items. So it is a little bit faster to pick these up now than it would be on your first trip. There is also a missile at the bottom of Bubble Mountain, which you will see the runners pick up now, and I believe that will be all of the items in Norfair for LakeDemon once he picks that missile up. You see Diddy going for a pretty nice strat there, using the spring ball to make it over the Fune there without killing him with either a super missile or a power bomb. I believe he did that because his super count is very low. It looks like he didn't get any super drops from Ridley, which is suboptimal for sure. We'll see if he does the spring ball strat on the way out, and he's going for it. You need to have a little bit more speed on your way out, so it's a little bit trickier, and it looks like Diddy's just going to use a power bomb, which has the added benefit of also killing the second Fune in the room, so that's neat. And you see LakeDemon pick up the missile at the bottom of Bubble Mountain. So that should be all the items in Norfair. Now all that is left is the X-ray scope, and then a few more items in Criteria and Retro Brinstar, which you'll see him go to. You may have noticed that he used a power bomb to break open the door in Green Hill Zone on his second trip through the room. So he will be able to go through that and finish off Retro Brinstar and the last couple items in Criteria. But first he needs to get there. He is, of course, at the bottom of the map, and that is all at the top of the map, so you will be going up Red Tower in order to pick up the X-ray scope, and then going through the Brinstar, the green Brinstar exit the wrong way in order to get back up to Retro Brinstar and finish his item cleanup. Meanwhile, Diddy just wrapping up the Lower Norfair escape. Not sure if he's got everything, but it looks like he does. See if he remembers this missile. He does. No worries here. LakeDemon going to use that screw attack space jump combo to get through this room real fast. Even going to land on the spikes a bit to increase his run speed and go a little bit faster at the end. And he's picked up his X-ray scope. Of course, this is never used in 100%, except there is one spot where it could theoretically be used if you make a mistake. But, of course, it needs to be picked up anyways. It is 100%. We've been over this. You know how it goes. And so we're going to see him go through go back to the Brinstar exit, just one door above him. in order to go back to Retro Brinstar. There is a very difficult trick you can do to get up to the top of this room quickly called the reverse slinky. I believe there are a single-digit number of people who have done it ever, not even in practice, or not even in a run, just ever. And you see, that door is usually a powerbomb door. He laid a powerbomb earlier in order to break the door open, so it is a regular door by the time he comes back. Anyways, reverse slinky, very difficult. It's much easier to just do what LakeDemon did and just space jump up to the top of the room. And so he is on to his Retro Brinstar cleanup. I mentioned at the very beginning of the run there were a few items he could pick up but opted not to. This is one of the big ones here, the beta missile, which you'll see him pick up, I believe, on his way out of Billy Mays. But there's a lot of items over here, and most of them are not easily collectible at the very beginning of the game. So we see him pick these up later, including the beta missile, which casual runners will usually be picking up right at the beginning. And of course he is on to the Billy Mays missiles, named because there is just one missile, but wait, there is more. And so he will be finished with his Retro Brinstar cleanup as soon as he picks up that last missile pack, the beta missiles. And then there's just a few items in criteria. Hopefully he's got every missile pack, but like I said, I don't think he's missed any. It looks like he's been thorough enough. And so he will be headed into criteria. You want to charge a Shine Spark in here in order to use the Shine Spark in the first pirate room that you would normally go through at the beginning of the game. You can spark through all of the pirates very quickly, which you're going to see LakeDemon do shortly. You don't actually need to spark through all the pirates since that door is already unlocked, but it gets you to the other side of the room very quickly and allows you to pick up the old Mother Brain missile below the remnants of Turian in Metroid 1, for those of you interested in the lore of the game. Now, instead of going up the climb, he will be going to this alternate path to get the Criteria Super Missile. We'll see what method he uses here. Looks like he went for a strat to make it through all of the enemies by shooting a shot while moving and freezing them all on the floor, but unfortunately shot the shot a little bit too late and didn't hit the first enemy. So he had to do a short charge with the enemies he did freeze, which luckily he does very nicely and picks up the Super Missile. Really nice speed keep there too. Actually unmorphed at the proper timing to keep his run speed. So we got to go through that room a little bit faster, I think. I couldn't really tell because he's streaming at 30 FPS, so he was invisible for most of it. And now he picks up the 230 missile, the last item he collects in the route. That should bring his total number of missiles up to 230. He should have 50 supers, 50 power bombs, 14 E-tanks, and 4 reserves. And we'll see if he decides to do a ship refill to check his ammo. It doesn't look like he's going to. He's confident he's got everything. And now he is on his way to Turian. He's actually running a really good time, too. I mentioned before his PB was a 127.31. He's actually on 125 pace if he has a good Turian. If he has a good Turian with a good Metroid skip and a good stand-up, this could be a 125. So LakeDemon having a very good run for himself. Always something you really love to see. We want to see the runners do as good as possible. And LakeDemon is definitely doing good right now. Diddy is also having a good run for himself. We assume he's about 3.5 minutes behind right now. So if he's behind a mid 125, then that puts his time at about a 129, which would also be a PB for him. Theoretically, he's running like about even with his PB, I believe. Maybe a little bit faster. It would be really hyped to see a double PB in a hundo race, but we will have to wait and see what happens. Diddy might be a little bit too far behind his PB, but it is very close. And you see LakeDemon turning off his screw attack in order to do the Zeb skip easier. I believe he also turned off Various Suit in order to do the stand-up glitch easier. We'll see about that, though. Not totally sure. These Metroid rooms are very easy with every movement, or not very easy, but very quick with every movement item and the fully decked out beam. Although the inputs required to do them optimally are extremely difficult. It's one of the highest APM sections of the game because you're constantly menuing between the ice beam and super missiles in order to kill the Metroid. And so he's now setting up for the baby skip. The skip saves about 25 seconds if he gets it, but can lose time if he doesn't, if he goes for it and doesn't get it. You see Diddy also not quite getting that shot up to the Criteria Supers, actually shot too late, it looks like. But all the attention now is on LakeDemon. Can he get the Metroid skip? Just manipulating the Metroid's movement so it always goes around him in circles, and he makes it through the room without getting grabbed by the Metroid, skips the cutscene, and skips the refill, which is about a 25-second time save. Lost a little bit of time because he used a more laggy version of the trick and also did a few extra jumps, but still a nice time save nonetheless. We'll see if he opts to take a save. Looks like he is. I think he can get a 125 either way as long as he doesn't take a death. But as much as we'd love to see him get a casual 2-minute PB, finishing the race in first place is more important at the moment. And so that is what we'll see him do. We're actually going to see LakeDemon go for a bit of an unusual Zeb skip, the Springball Zeb skip. So by using super missiles on the first Zebetite, you can actually clip into the second Zebetite wall and then use Springball to jump through the one block gap. It is not possible to do that on the first Zebetite, and I'm actually surprised he turned off Screw Attack because you can do that with Screw Attack. It's generally seen in GT Classic for runners trying to get through the Zeb skip without taking any damage. It is a little bit slower, but part of the time save is the fact that you can do it easily without turning off Screw Attack. So I'm not totally sure why he did that, but regardless, he was able to get the Zeb skip very quickly. And so Diddy, you saw by his splits that he's only a few seconds in the red, I believe. So depending on Turian, if he gets a good baby skip and stand-up, I don't know how comfortable Diddy is with stand-up or baby skip, but if he gets them both, he can actually theoretically PB by a few seconds. Fully optimal Turian in 100% is about 7 minutes flat. A little bit faster than that theoretically, but getting beyond that point is very difficult. So with a 7-minute Turian, Diddy would be able to PB. As LakeDemon sets up for the stand-up, he did turn off Varia, so he wants to set his health between 700 and 799 before he gets hit by the first Rainbow Beam, which will deal 6 E-Tanks, and then he wants to get to 100 health or below, so Mother Brain will get in the pattern of firing a second Rainbow Beam before the baby latches onto her. And now he is standing up when the game would normally be forcing him into a crouched position. And he smartly was in the air when the baby appeared. That is when the game, or one of the checks the game makes to make sure you are locked in the crouched position. It will lock you into that position. when the baby appears on the screen. And you saw there, it will also lock you in the position once the baby disconnects from Mother Brain. So LakeDemon making sure he is in the air for that part. We see Diddy has the 230 missile count, so he does have every missile. He doesn't need to worry about that. Not sure what LakeDemon's is, but I imagine it is also 230. Anyways, LakeDemon taking this fight very safe. I believe you need about 36 shots in order for an optimal stand-up glitch without needing, or with only needing one Mother Brain 3 rainbow shot to finish off the fight. But he's taking it a little bit safer, make sure the Metroid freezes in a good position. Once you are finished refilling, the baby Metroid will freeze in place, so it is possible to softlock by freezing the Metroid in a place where he cannot be hit by Mother Brain's attacks, which will not allow the cutscene to progress and softlock the game. Or, well, you would be able to get out of it by dying, but that is arguably worse. And so LakeDemon is very close to a 125 here, even with the save. If he has a perfect escape, he will enter, or he will be able to enter the ship at about a 150 or 125 5x. So hopefully he can get a really good escape here. Seeing a almost 2-minute PB in a race would be really crazy for LakeDemon. See what he can do. Meanwhile, Diddy Kong unfortunately misses the baby skip, so that is any hopes for a PB for him gone, unfortunately. But he can still have a pretty solid run for himself. With a good rest of Turian, he can definitely get a 130, which would be very solid for a race. LakeDemon entering the climb once more to spark up. He's going to do a safer spark, sparking up the right side. There is a faster strat where you spark from a different part of the floor and do a diagonal spark, but if you do it in the wrong position, you can bonk on one of the platforms, which will cause you to do another spark and lose you a little bit of time. And now it's down to Steam RNG. Will LakeDemon make it to the ship before the 126 mark? It looks like he does. The time of 125.58. The official SRL time was a 126.07, as LakeDemon has finished in first place. GG. Like I said, I believe if the time on speedrun.com is correct, that is a PB by LakeDemon by about 1.5 minutes. So a very good run for LakeDemon. He's been clearly practicing 100% for the tournament, and that practice has paid off as he pulled off a really solid run in a race. As LakeDemon is going to be moving to 3-1 in the multi-category tournament. Of course, all of the matchups will be determined weekly, so we won't know who he's going to be playing next week, but he will definitely be playing a strong opponent. So, best of luck to him as he continues his journey in the tournament. And now Diddy is just needs to finish off the Mother Brain fight and the escape. Looks like he's also setting up for the stand-up. Sets his health to a good amount. Gets low enough for Mother Brain to do the second rainbow beam. And there's a few other tricky spots here, but he should be good from here. So I mentioned before that X-Ray could theoretically be used in Hundo, although it's never needed, and the stand-up is actually where I was talking about. If you get locked onto the floor there after the Metroid detaches from Mother Brain, you can use X-Ray to stand back up and continue. Otherwise, you would be stuck in Mother Brain's hitbox, and you would die as soon as she takes a step forward, which would end the run. Fortunately, Diddy didn't get locked on the floor anyways, so we didn't need to show it off. We do need to wait for the credits to finish, though. It is technically possible that LakeDemon didn't pick up every item. We need confirmation that the 100% shows up at the end of the credits, although I do think he has everything. Diddy gonna take the last bit of this stand-up carefully. One of the places this can go wrong is if you are firing a shot when the game gives you Hyper Beam, which will slow lock the game unless you perform a specific set of inputs. By specific, I mainly just mean hold either item select or item cancel. We have seen that lose a runner a race before, so luckily that's not going to happen here. And a moment of truth here for LakeDemon. Does he get 100%? As Diddy finishing up the escape. He's going to be making a solid mid 130 pace, only about 30 seconds behind his PB. Sounds like dog in the background. And we see 100% for LakeDemon. He has officially won the race now, and, well, like I said, he's going to be moving on to the 3-1 bracket in the Swiss round robin. Or not round robin. What would you call it? Is it still a round robin if you don't play everyone? I guess not. But the Swiss stage of the tournament before the knockout playoffs bracket. He'll be moving on to face another 3-1 runner next week. Diddy will be falling to 2-2, but we are assuming that 4-2 is that magic number to hit playoffs, so Diddy is still able to make it if he wins his next 2 races, and he will theoretically have easier opponents within the 2-2 bracket. And like I said, Diddy's been having a very solid tournament for himself. 2 very close races. It was very possible that he won race 2 and also won race 3 by a few seconds. But anyways, he has done with an official time of 1 hour, 30 minutes, and 41 seconds, and that is GG for both of our racers. We'll see if we can get the runners in for interviews. Doesn't look like it though. Of course, we do have plenty of races coming up today. We have one at 6 p.m. Eastern, of course, between Galamaz and White Mage Becky. At 7 p.m., we have 2 races, Polar Bear Bunny versus Magoo and Crocomire versus Sinon, although it looks like those will not be restreamed. So you'll have to check out the runners if you want to see their races. There will most likely be a multi-stream set up for anyone to watch. And at 8 p.m. we have the aforementioned predetermined low percent ice race between Woody and Richmond. That'll be commentated by Kip. So if you want to see what might be the only low ice run of the round, since it is probably the most difficult category in the tournament, be sure to check that out if you can make it. If not, the VODs will be available on SpeedGaming 6 and eventually on the SpeedGaming YouTube channel. So it looks like neither of the runners are going to be joining for an interview, so that is going to do it for us. Just going to wait for Diddy's credits to confirm 100%, but we already know he has every missile, so the odds of him skipping an item are extremely low at this point. So be sure to follow our 2 runners, Diddy and LakeDemon. Hopefully we got the commands in chat. As well as you can follow me too. Doing solo comms on a 100% race is definitely pretty tough, so might not have been my best cast ever, but if you want to hit me up with a follow anyways, then you can feel free to do so. I'll stream again eventually. And that will do it for us. So, pending Diddy's 100% here, which I believe he has since he has not forfeited in SRL, we will see you next mission.